In the distant future, humanity had spread across the stars. They built cities on faraway planets and traveled between solar systems with ease. It was a time of exploration and growth, but also tension. The galaxy was vast, and not all of it belonged to humans. Rumors began to spread about something strange happening near the edge of human-controlled space. Reports came in from distant outposts, ships disappearing, colonies going silent, and strange readings picked up by long-range scanners. Captain Ryan Carter stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the glowing map displayed on the main screen. He was a tall man with sharp features and calm eyes, respected by his crew for his steady leadership. Around him, officers moved quickly, preparing for whatever might come next. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Melissa Lane, walked over to join him. She was smart, quick-thinking, and always ready with a plan. "Sir," Melissa said, her voice steady but serious, "we've confirmed it. There's an alien fleet heading this way. Their speed suggests they'll reach us within hours." Ryan nodded slowly, his mind already working through the possibilities. This wasn't just another patrol mission or routine defense operation. If what they were hearing was true, this could be the biggest threat humanity had ever faced. "What do we know about them?" Ryan asked, turning to face her. "Not much," Melissa admitted. "Their ships are unlike anything we've seen before, organic-looking, almost alive. And their movements suggest they're organized, maybe even intelligent. But we can't communicate with them. Every attempt so far has failed." Ryan frowned. Silence filled the room as everyone waited for his orders. He glanced around at his team. Chief Engineer Daniel Brooks was nearby, checking equipment readouts. Ensign Laura Fisher sat at the navigation console, her young face focused as she plotted possible courses. These people depended on him to make the right decisions. "Melissa," Ryan said finally, "get me a full status report on our fleet. I want to know exactly what we're working with. Ship numbers, weapon readiness, everything." "Daniel, double-check the engines and shields. We can't afford any surprises once this starts." "Yes, sir," both replied, moving off to carry out their tasks. As the minutes passed, more information came in. The enemy fleet was massive, hundreds of ships, each one larger than most human vessels. Their designs seemed to blend technology with biology, making them look like giant insects floating in space. Sensors showed energy signatures that hinted at powerful weapons, though no one knew how effective they would be against human defenses. Ryan took a deep breath. He knew this wouldn't be easy. Humanity had fought wars before, but this felt different. This wasn't just about protecting territory, it was about survival. If they lost here, Earth itself could be at risk. "Laura," he called out, "plot us a course to the edge of the system. We'll meet them head-on. No point letting them get too close to our colonies." "Aye, Captain," Laura answered, her fingers flying over the controls. The bridge buzzed with activity as preparations continued. Outside the viewport, the stars twinkled faintly, oblivious to the storm brewing in the void. Ryan clenched his fists briefly, then relaxed. Whatever happened next, he vowed to protect his crew and the billions of lives counting on them. Hours later, the fleet arrived at its destination. The alien armada loomed ahead, a dark cloud blotting out the light of distant suns. Ryan gave the order to hold position, waiting for the enemy to make the first move. For now, all they could do was watch and wait. The human fleet floated silently in the cold emptiness of space, its ships arranged in a tight defensive formation. The alien armada loomed ahead, larger and stranger than anything Captain Ryan Carter had ever seen. Their ships pulsed faintly with an eerie green light, as if they were alive. The sight sent a chill down his spine. He stood on the bridge, gripping the railing as he watched the enemy through the viewport. "Any sign of movement?" Ryan asked, glancing at Lieutenant Melissa Lane. "Not yet," she replied, her eyes fixed on her console. "But their energy readings are spiking. They're powering up something. Weapons, maybe." Ryan nodded, his jaw tightening. "Keep scanning." If they try to communicate again, let me know immediately. For the past hour, the aliens had sent strange signals, waves of static mixed with patterns that didn't match any known language. Humanity's best linguists and code breakers had tried to decipher them, but so far, nothing made sense. It was as if the aliens weren't even trying to talk. They were just waiting. Suddenly, one of the alien ships broke away from the main group. It moved slowly at first, then accelerated toward the human fleet. Its shape shifted subtly as it approached, like a living creature stretching its limbs. "Captain," Laura Fisher called out from her station. "That ship is heading straight for us." "Hold position," Ryan ordered, his voice calm but firm. "Let's see what they want." The alien vessel came to a stop just outside the range of the human fleet's weapons. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, without warning, a beam of bright blue light shot out from the ship, striking one of the smaller scout vessels nearby. The scout ship exploded in a flash of fire and debris. The bridge erupted into chaos. Alarms blared, and officers shouted updates as everyone scrambled to respond. "They fired on us," Melissa exclaimed, her face pale with shock. "No warning, no negotiation. They just attacked." Ryan's mind raced. This wasn't just aggression. It was a declaration of war. There would be no talking their way out of this. He turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to all ships. Prepare for combat. We fight back, but only if they engage us first." "Yes, sir," the officer replied, relaying the order across the fleet. The alien ship seemed to hesitate after its attack, almost as if it were observing the humans' reaction. Then, without another shot, it retreated back to the main armada. The other ships began to move, spreading out into a wide arc that surrounded the human fleet. "They're boxing us in," Melissa said grimly. "They're cutting off our escape routes." Ryan clenched his fists. "Not if we break through them first." "Melissa, plot a course for the weakest point in their line." "Daniel, make sure our engines are ready to jump at full power." "Laura, keep an eye on their movements. We can't afford to get caught off guard." As the crew worked furiously, Ryan allowed himself a brief moment to think. These aliens were unlike anything humanity had encountered before. Their technology seemed advanced, but also unpredictable. Were they truly hostile, or was this some kind of test? Either way, one thing was clear: they weren't going to back down. "Captain," Melissa interrupted his thoughts. "They're charging weapons again. Multiple targets this time." Ryan's heart pounded. "All ships, open fire on my mark. Aim for their lead vessel. It looks like the command center." The human fleet braced itself for battle. Missiles armed with plasma warheads slid into launch tubes, and railguns powered up with a low hum. Through the viewport, Ryan could see the alien ships glowing brighter, their weapons ready to strike. 3, 2, 1, mark," Ryan barked. The first volley of missiles streaked across the void, leaving trails of fiery exhaust behind them. The alien ships responded instantly, firing beams of energy that lit up the darkness. Explosions rocked both sides as the two fleets clashed in a dazzling display of destruction. On the bridge, the crew held their breath. The initial exchange had been brutal, but the human fleet still held its ground. Ryan watched as one of the alien ships erupted in flames, its organic hull tearing apart under the force of the plasma warheads. "We hit them hard, sir," Melissa said, her voice tinged with relief. "Their shields aren't as strong as we thought." Ryan nodded, a small smile forming on his lips. "Good. Keep pushing. We've got them on the ropes." But deep down, he knew this was only the beginning. The aliens outnumbered them, and their strange technology meant they could adapt quickly. The battle was far from over. The battlefield was a chaotic mix of light and sound. Explosions lit up the darkness of space, painting the void with flashes of orange and blue. The human fleet fought fiercely, their weapons tearing through the alien ships with surprising effectiveness. Captain Ryan Carter watched from the bridge as one alien vessel after another exploded under the barrage of plasma missiles and railgun fire. For a moment, it seemed like they might actually win this fight. But then the aliens adapted. Their ships began to change shape, shifting in ways that defied logic. What had once looked like smooth, insect-like hulls now sprouted jagged protrusions, almost like armor plating. The energy beams they fired grew stronger, cutting through human shields with alarming ease. One by one, the smaller scout ships in the fleet started to fall. "Captain," Lieutenant Melissa Lane shouted over the noise of alarms. "Their weapons are getting more powerful. We're losing ships faster than we can replace them." Ryan's jaw tightened. He knew she was right. The initial success had been encouraging, but the aliens were learning, and fast. Their ability to adapt mid-battle made them dangerous opponents. If something didn't change soon, the human fleet would be overwhelmed. "Laura," Ryan said, turning to Ensign Laura Fisher at the navigation console, "how many ships do we have left?" Laura hesitated, her fingers flying over the controls. "About 60% of the fleet is still operational, sir, but a lot of those are damaged. We're holding our own for now, but we can't keep this up forever." Ryan finished for her. He turned back to the viewport, his mind racing. They needed a new plan, and they needed it quickly. Melissa stepped closer, her expression determined. "Sir, I've been analyzing their movements. They're clustering together, probably to protect their command ship. If we could split them apart, we might be able to pick them off one section at a time." Ryan nodded slowly. It was risky, but it was their best chance. "All right, here's what we'll do. Divide the fleet into 3 squadrons. 2 will flank the enemy while the 3rd stays behind to cover our retreat if things go south. We hit them hard and fast, then pull back before they can regroup." Melissa relayed the orders to the rest of the fleet, and within moments, the human ships began to move. The 1st squadron surged forward, drawing the attention of the alien armada. As expected, the aliens focused their firepower on the attacking ships, leaving their flanks exposed. That's when the 2nd squadron struck, unleashing a wave of missiles that tore through the unprotected vessels. For a brief moment, it looked like the plan was working. Dozens of alien ships were destroyed, and the enemy formation began to break apart. But just as quickly, the aliens countered. Their ships reformed into a tighter cluster, creating a wall of energy shields that blocked further attacks. "Damn it," Ryan muttered under his breath. He gripped the railing tightly, frustration building inside him. They had pushed the aliens back, but not far enough. The battle was turning into a stalemate, and every second that passed meant more casualties for the human side. "Sir," Daniel Brooks called out from his station near the engineering console, "our shield generators are overheating. If we don't ease off soon, we're going to lose protection entirely." Ryan clenched his fists. He hated the idea of retreating, but he couldn't risk losing the flagship, or worse, the entire fleet. "Order all ships to fall back to a safe distance," he said finally. "We'll regroup and come up with a new strategy." As the fleet withdrew, the aliens didn't pursue. Instead, they held their position, their glowing ships pulsing faintly in the darkness. It was almost as if they were waiting for reinforcements, or perhaps for humanity to make its next move. On the bridge, the crew worked to repair the damage and assess their losses. Ryan stared out at the alien fleet, his mind buzzing with questions. Who were these creatures? Why had they attacked without warning? And most importantly, how could humanity defeat them? One thing was certain: the battle wasn't over. Not yet. The human fleet hovered at a safe distance, licking its wounds. The ships were battered, their shields flickering weakly as engineers worked tirelessly to repair the damage. Captain Ryan Carter stood on the bridge, his face lined with exhaustion, but his eyes sharp and focused. He stared at the alien armada through the viewport, their glowing ships still looming like predators waiting for their prey to make a mistake. "Sir," Lieutenant Melissa Lane said, breaking the tense silence, "we've got incoming communication. It's not from the aliens." Ryan frowned. Not from the aliens? Who is it? Melissa tapped a few commands on her console. A holographic screen flickered to life in front of them, revealing the face of a woman with sharp features and piercing blue eyes. Her hair was streaked with gray, and her expression was intense but calm. "Captain Carter," the woman began, her voice steady and confident. "My name is Dr. Olivia Grant. I believe you're in need of some help." Ryan exchanged a glance with Melissa before responding. "Dr. Grant, you're supposed to be out of contact. Last reports said you disappeared years ago." Olivia nodded. "That's correct. I've been living on the edge of explored space, studying these creatures. I've dedicated my life to understanding them and finding their weaknesses." Ryan leaned forward, his interest piqued. "Go on." "They're not just machines or ships," Olivia explained. "They're part of a hive mind, a collective consciousness that controls every ship in action. If you disrupt that connection, you can disable their entire fleet." "How do we do that?" Ryan asked, his voice urgent. "Electromagnetic pulses," Olivia replied. "Their systems are highly sensitive to EMPs. A well-placed pulse could sever their link to the hive mind, leaving them disoriented and vulnerable." Ryan's mind raced. An EMP attack could work, but deploying it wouldn't be easy. Their ships weren't equipped with EMP weapons, and retrofitting them would take time. Time they might not have. "We'll need to modify some of our older ships to carry EMP emitters," he said aloud, thinking through the plan. "It'll be risky, but it's our best shot." "I can guide your engineers," Olivia offered. "Send me the specs of your ships, and I'll walk them through the process." Ryan turned to Chief Engineer Daniel Brooks. "Daniel, get Dr. Grant access to everything she needs. Work with her to retrofit those ships as quickly as possible." "Aye, sir," Daniel replied, already heading to his station. As the crew sprang into action, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that this plan was a gamble. The aliens hadn't moved yet, but they were unpredictable. If they launched another attack before the EMP ships were ready, the human fleet would be in serious trouble. "Laura," Ryan called out to Ensign Laura Fisher, who was monitoring the alien fleet's movements. "Keep a close eye on them. If they so much as twitch, I want to know about it." "Yes, sir," Laura answered, her young face tense with concentration. Hours passed as the engineers worked frantically. Dr. Olivia Grant proved invaluable, her knowledge of alien technology guiding the modifications. By the time the first EMP ship was ready, the crew was exhausted but hopeful. Ryan gathered his senior officers on the bridge for a final briefing. "Here's the plan," he said, pointing to a display showing the alien fleet. "We'll send the EMP ships in first, flanked by 2 squadrons to provide cover. Once the pulse is deployed, the rest of the fleet will move in to finish them off." Melissa raised an eyebrow. "What if the EMP doesn't work?" Ryan met her gaze. "Then we fight until we can't fight anymore. But we have to try." The mood on the bridge was somber but determined. Everyone knew the risks, but they also knew there was no other choice. As the EMP ships prepared to launch, Ryan felt a pang of pride for his crew. They had faced impossible odds before, and they hadn't backed down then. They wouldn't back down now. "All right," Ryan said, his voice firm. "Let's end this." The human fleet was quiet as the EMP ships prepared for their dangerous mission. Captain Ryan Carter stood on the bridge, watching the crew work with a mix of pride and worry. The plan was risky. Sending modified ships into the heart of the alien armada meant certain losses, but it was the only way to break the aliens' hive-mind connection and give humanity a fighting chance. Chief Engineer Daniel Brooks walked over to Ryan, his face streaked with grease but his expression serious. "Captain, we've retrofitted 3 ships with EMP emitters. They're ready to go." Ryan nodded. "Good work, Daniel. Who's volunteering to pilot them?" Before Daniel could answer, Ensign Laura Fisher stepped forward. Her young face was pale but resolute. "I'll do it, sir," she said firmly. "I know these ships better than anyone. If something goes wrong, I can handle it." Ryan hesitated. He admired her bravery, but sending her into such danger felt wrong. Still, he knew there was no time to argue. "All right, Laura. You'll lead the first ship. Pick 2 others to join you." Laura nodded and quickly chose 2 experienced pilots from the crew. As they made their way to the EMP ships, Ryan turned to Lieutenant Melissa Lane. "Melissa, I need you to coordinate the attack. Once the EMP ships are in position, the rest of the fleet will move in to cover them." "Understood, sir," Melissa replied, already working on the battle plan. The EMP ships launched, their engines glowing faintly as they moved toward the alien fleet. On the bridge, the crew watched anxiously as the small vessels approached the massive swarm of biomechanical ships. Laura's voice crackled over the comms. "We're in position, Captain. Ready to deploy the pulse on your mark." Ryan took a deep breath. "Hold steady, Laura. Wait for my signal." The alien fleet remained eerily still, their glowing hulls pulsing faintly. It was as if they were waiting, watching. Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that they were being lured into a trap. But there was no turning back now. "Laura," Ryan said finally, "deploy the EMPs." Now, the EMP ships released their payloads, sending waves of electromagnetic energy rippling through space. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the alien ships began to falter. Their lights dimmed, their movements slowed, and some even drifted aimlessly, like leaves caught in a breeze. "It's working," Melissa exclaimed, her voice filled with relief. "Their systems are shutting down." But the victory was short-lived. The EMP pulse also affected the human fleet's equipment. Shields flickered, weapons powered down, and communication signals became garbled. On the bridge, alarms blared as the crew scrambled to restore functionality. "Daniel, get our systems back online," Ryan ordered, his voice sharp with urgency. "I'm trying, sir," Daniel replied, his hands flying over the controls. "It'll take a few minutes, but we should be able to recover." Meanwhile, Laura and the other pilots struggled to keep their ships intact. The aliens, though disoriented, were still dangerous. Some of their ships managed to fire blindly, their energy beams cutting through space like wild strikes. "Captain, we're taking heavy fire," Laura reported, her voice strained. "One of the EMP ships has been hit. We can't hold out much longer." Ryan clenched his fists. He knew what he had to do. All ships, advance and provide cover for the EMP ships. Don't let them get surrounded. The human fleet surged forward, unleashing everything they had left. Missiles streaked across the void, targeting the remaining functional alien ships. Railguns fired repeatedly, tearing through the weakened enemy vessels. Despite the chaos, the humans fought with determination, protecting the EMP ships at all costs. Finally, Daniel's efforts paid off. The flagship's systems came back online, followed by the rest of the fleet. "Shields are back up, sir," he announced. "Weapons are operational." Ryan wasted no time. "Melissa, order the fleet to push forward. Hit them hard while they're still vulnerable." The human fleet unleashed a devastating assault, their weapons cutting through the alien ships with ease. Explosions lit up the battlefield as one alien vessel after another was destroyed. The once mighty armada was falling apart, its hive mind shattered, and its ships adrift. On the bridge, the crew cheered as the tide of the battle turned decisively in their favor. Ryan allowed himself a brief smile, but his thoughts were with Laura and the other pilots who had risked everything to make this possible. "Good work, everyone," he said quietly. "Let's finish this." The battlefield was a scene of chaos and destruction. Alien ships drifted aimlessly, their glowing hulls dimmed and lifeless after the EMP pulse disrupted their systems. The human fleet pressed its advantage, unleashing wave after wave of missiles and railgun fire. Explosions lit up the darkness as the aliens' once formidable armada crumbled under the relentless assault. Captain Ryan Carter stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the viewport. He watched as one alien ship after another exploded into fiery debris. The EMP had done its job, severing the hive mind connection that held the enemy together. Without it, the aliens were disorganized and vulnerable. But Ryan knew better than to celebrate too soon. Even wounded, the enemy could still strike back. "Laura," Ryan called out over the comms. "Status report. Are you holding up?" Laura Fisher's voice came through, shaky but determined. "We're still here, sir, but barely. 2 of our EMP ships are damaged, and we're taking heavy fire from the remaining alien ships." Ryan clenched his jaw. "Melissa, get me a layout of their forces. I want to know where the strongest resistance is coming from." Melissa Lane worked quickly, pulling up a tactical display on the main screen. "There's a cluster of alien ships near the center of their formation, sir. They're not moving much, but they're still firing sporadically. It looks like they're trying to protect something. Maybe their command ship." Ryan nodded. "That's our target. All squadrons, focus your firepower on that central cluster. We need to break through and take out whatever's left of their leadership." The human fleet moved with precision, their ships weaving between bursts of enemy fire. The railguns roared as they tore through alien hulls, while plasma missiles struck with devastating force. One by one, the alien ships fell, their organic metallic frames shattering under the verage. But the aliens weren't giving up without a fight. Even without the hive mind, some of their ships managed to coordinate basic attacks. Energy beams lashed out, striking human vessels and forcing them to retreat temporarily. The battle was far from over. "Captain," Laura's voice broke through the noise. "One of our EMP ships has been hit. It's losing power fast." Ryan's heart sank. "Laura, fall back to a safe distance. We'll cover you." "No, sir," Laura replied firmly. "If I pull back now, the aliens might regroup. I can still hold position for a little longer." Ryan hesitated. He admired her bravery, but he couldn't risk losing her or the other pilots. "All right, but don't push it. Fall back as soon as you see an opening." As the EMP ships continued to draw fire, the rest of the fleet poured everything they had into the central cluster of alien ships. Explosions rippled across the battlefield, sending shockwaves through space. Finally, the largest alien ship in the cluster erupted in a massive fireball, lighting up the void like a second sun. "That's it," Melissa exclaimed. "Their command ship is gone." The effect was immediate. The remaining alien ships stopped firing altogether, their movements becoming erratic and uncoordinated. Some drifted silently, while others attempted feeble attacks before being destroyed by the human fleet. On the bridge, the crew let out a collective sigh of relief. The tide of the battle had turned decisively in humanity's favor. But Ryan remained cautious. "Don't let your guard down," he warned. "They're weakened, but they're not defeated yet." Laura's voice came over the comms again, this time softer. "Sir, the EMP ships are retreating now. We've done what we can." "Good work, Laura," Ryan said, his tone warm with gratitude. "Get yourselves patched up. You've earned it." As the EMP ships limped back toward the main fleet, the human ships continued to mop up the remaining alien forces. The aliens, leaderless and confused, offered little resistance. One by one, their ships were destroyed, until only a handful remained. Finally, the last alien vessel exploded in a burst of light, leaving the battlefield eerily quiet. The human fleet floated amidst the wreckage, their ships battered but victorious. For the first time in hours, the crew on the bridge allowed themselves to relax. Ryan leaned against the railing, exhaustion washing over him. They had won. A hard-fought, costly victory, but a victory nonetheless. "Captain," Melissa said softly, "what now?" Ryan looked out at the stars, his mind already turning to the future. "Now, we clean up and regroup. And then, we find out who, or what, sent them." The battlefield was quiet now, the only sounds coming from the hum of engines and the occasional crackle of debris floating in space. The human fleet hovered among the wreckage of alien ships, their own vessels scared but intact. Captain Ryan Carter stood on the bridge, his eyes scanning the remains of the enemy armada. The victory felt hollow. Too many lives had been lost, too many sacrifices made. "Lieutenant Lane," Ryan said, turning to Melissa, "get me a full damage report. I want to know how many ships we've lost and how many are still operational." Melissa nodded and began typing commands into her console. After a moment, she looked up, her expression grim. "We've lost nearly 30% of our fleet, sir. Another 20% are heavily damaged. Most of the EMP ships won't be flying again anytime soon." Ryan sighed deeply. It was worse than he'd hoped, but not as bad as it could have been. He glanced at Ensign Laura Fisher, who had just returned to the flagship after her harrowing mission. Her face was pale, and there were dark circles under her eyes, but she stood tall, refusing to show weakness. "Good work out there, Laura," Ryan said, his voice warm with gratitude. "You and your team saved us all." Laura gave a small nod. "Thank you, sir, but what happens now? Do you think they'll come back?" Ryan hesitated. He didn't have an answer. The aliens' hive mind had been shattered, their ships destroyed, but that didn't mean the threat was over. Whoever, or whatever, had sent them might already be preparing another attack. Before he could respond, Dr. Olivia Grant's face appeared on the main screen. She had been monitoring the battle from a nearby science vessel, offering guidance whenever needed. Her sharp blue eyes locked onto Ryan's. "Captain, we need to act quickly. This victory is temporary at best. If these aliens have reinforcements, they'll send them soon." Ryan frowned. "What do you suggest?" Olivia leaned closer to the camera, her tone urgent. "We need to find their homeworld, or wherever they came from. Their technology is unlike anything we've seen before. If we can locate their source, we can strike first and end this threat once and for all." Ryan considered her words carefully. It was a bold plan, but also a dangerous one. Venturing deeper into uncharted space meant leaving Earth and its colonies vulnerable. Still, if they didn't take the fight to the enemy, humanity might never truly be safe. "Melissa," Ryan said, turning to his second-in-command, "start analyzing the data we collected during the battle. Look for any patterns in their movements or signals that might lead us to their origin point." "Aye, sir," Melissa replied, already working on her console. Ryan turned his attention to Chief Engineer Daniel Brooks. "Daniel, get the fleet repaired as fast as possible. We don't have time to waste. Prioritize the most damaged ships. We may need every vessel we can get." Daniel nodded. "I'm on it, sir. It'll take some time, but we'll get it done." As the crew worked tirelessly, Ryan allowed himself a brief moment to reflect. They had faced an enemy unlike any other and emerged victorious, but the cost had been high. He thought of the brave men and women who had given their lives to protect humanity. Their sacrifice wouldn't be forgotten. Hours passed as the fleet regrouped and prepared for what lay ahead. Melissa finally called Ryan over to her station. "Sir, I think I found something. There's a faint energy signature in the data. It matches the alien ships. It's faint, but it's consistent." Ryan leaned in, studying the readings. "Can you trace it?" "It's weak, but yes," Melissa replied. "If we follow it, it might lead us to where they came from." Ryan straightened, a sense of purpose returning to his voice. "Then that's where we're going. Set a course, Melissa. Notify the fleet. We move out as soon as repairs are complete." The crew sprang into action, their earlier exhaustion replaced by determination. For the first time since the battle began, there was hope, not just for survival, but for victory. Ryan stared out at the stars, his mind focused on the journey ahead. Humanity had proven its strength today, but the real test was yet to come. "Let's finish this," he murmured, more to himself than anyone else. The human fleet moved cautiously through the void, following the faint energy signature Melissa had discovered. Captain Ryan Carter stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the main screen as it displayed their course. The journey into uncharted space was risky, but there was no other choice. If they wanted to end the alien threat once and for all, they had to find its source. "Sir," Ensign Laura Fisher said from her station, "the energy signature is getting stronger. We're close. Maybe a few hours away." Ryan nodded. "Good. Keep monitoring it. Let me know if anything changes." The crew worked quietly, their focus sharp despite the fatigue that still lingered after the battle. Chief Engineer Daniel Brooks walked onto the bridge, his face lined with worry. "Captain, most of the repairs are done, but some ships are still running on backup systems. If we run into trouble, it won't hold up long." "We'll manage," Ryan replied firmly. "We've come this far. We can't turn back now." As the fleet pushed deeper into unknown territory, the tension grew. The stars outside the viewport seemed colder here, the silence heavier. It felt like they were being watched, though no one could say why. "Lieutenant Lane," Ryan called out, turning to Melissa, "what's our status on defensive readiness?" "All weapons are online, sir," Melissa answered, "but shields are still weak on several ships. If we're attacked, we'll need to rely on speed and maneuverability." Ryan clenched his jaw. They weren't in the best shape for another fight, but he trusted his crew to handle whatever came next. He glanced at Laura, who was busy tracking the energy signature. She looked tired but determined, her hands moving quickly over the controls. Suddenly, an alarm blared across the bridge. "Captain," Laura exclaimed, her voice rising with urgency. "Multiple contacts incoming. They're coming from ahead of us." Ryan turned toward the viewport. In the distance, dark shapes began to emerge from the shadows of space. Alien ships, dozens of them, were approaching fast. They were smaller than the ones they'd fought before, but their movements were erratic, almost insect-like. "It's a patrol," Melissa said, her tone grim. "They must have been guarding whatever's ahead." Ryan didn't hesitate. "All ships, prepare for combat. Stay in formation and keep moving forward. We don't stop unless we have to." The human fleet surged ahead, their engines glowing brightly against the darkness. The alien ships closed in quickly, firing bursts of energy that lit up the void. Explosions rocked the human vessels as shields absorbed the impacts, but the fleet held steady. "Laura, stay on that energy signature," Ryan ordered. "Don't lose it, no matter what." "Aye, sir," Laura replied, her fingers flying over the console. The battle intensified as the aliens swarmed around the human fleet, trying to cut them off. Railguns roared, tearing through enemy ships, while missiles streaked across the battlefield, leaving trails of fire behind them. Despite their numbers, the aliens were no match for humanity's coordinated assault. "Sir," Melissa reported, "we're breaking through their line. Another minute, and we'll be past them." Ryan gripped the railing tightly, watching as the human ships pushed forward. The aliens tried to regroup, but their attacks were disorganized, lacking the precision of the earlier hive mind-controlled fleet. Finally, the last alien ship exploded in a burst of light, clearing the way for the human fleet. Ahead of them, a massive structure loomed in the darkness, a colossal alien station, its surface pulsing with the same eerie green light as the ships. "That's it," Melissa said, her voice filled with awe. "That has to be their base." Ryan stared at the station, his mind racing. This was it, the heart of the enemy's operations. Destroying it would cripple their ability to launch further attacks, but taking it down wouldn't be easy. "All ships, prepare for a final assault," Ryan ordered. "Target their power core. If we hit it hard enough, we can bring the whole thing down." The fleet moved into position, weapons charging as they approached the station. The aliens inside scrambled to respond, launching small fighters and firing defensive turrets, but the humans pressed on, undeterred. As the first volley of missiles struck the station, explosions rippled across its surface. The alien defenses faltered, overwhelmed by the sheer force of the attack. "Keep firing," Ryan shouted. "Don't let up." One by one, the human ships unleashed everything they had left. The station shuddered under the barrage, its lights flickering as its systems began to fail. Finally, with a deafening roar, The station erupted in a massive explosion, sending shockwaves through space. The alien fighters fell silent, their connection to the base severed. One by one, the human ships unleashed everything they had left. The station shuddered under the barrage, its lights flickering as its systems began to fail. Finally, with a deafening roar, the station erupted in a massive explosion, sending shockwaves through space. The alien fighters fell silent, their connection to the base severed. On the bridge, the crew cheered, their exhaustion forgotten in the heat of victory. Ryan allowed himself a small smile. They had done it. They had found the enemy's stronghold and destroyed it. But as the fleet floated amidst the wreckage, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't truly the end. Somewhere out there, beyond the stars, the aliens' creators, or masters, might still be watching, waiting. Set course for Earth, Ryan said quietly. We've done what we came to do. Now it's time to go home. The human fleet drifted quietly through space, its ships battered but victorious. The destruction of the alien station had been a turning point, a moment that would go down in history as one of humanity's greatest triumphs. But for Captain Ryan Carter, the weight of what they had accomplished, and the cost of it, was still sinking in. On the bridge, the crew worked to stabilize the remaining ships and assess their losses. Some officers moved silently from station to station, while others spoke in hushed tones about what they had just witnessed. Ensign Laura Fisher sat at her console, staring blankly at the screen in front of her. Her hands trembled slightly, though she tried to hide it. She wasn't the only one feeling the toll of the battle. "Lieutenant Lane," Ryan said, breaking the quiet, "what's our status on casualties?" Melissa Lane looked up from her console, her expression somber. "We've lost nearly 40% of our crew, sir. Another 30% are injured, some critically. Medical teams are doing what they can, but supplies are running low." Ryan nodded slowly, his jaw tightening. 40%. It was a staggering number, one that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He turned to Chief Engineer Daniel Brooks, who was leaning over a damaged panel near the back of the bridge. "Daniel, how are the repairs coming along?" "We're holding together, sir," Daniel replied, wiping sweat from his brow. "But these ships weren't built for this kind of punishment. We'll need weeks, maybe months, to fully repair them once we get back to Earth." Ryan sighed deeply. They had won the battle, but the scars ran deep. Still, there was no time to dwell on the losses. The fleet needed to regroup and prepare for whatever came next. "Sir," Laura spoke up suddenly, her voice soft but steady. "What happens if there are more of them? What if this isn't over?" Ryan hesitated. It was a question he had been asking himself since the battle began. The aliens they had faced were powerful, but they weren't invincible. Whoever, or whatever, had created them might still be out there, watching and waiting. "We don't know for sure," Ryan admitted, "but we've sent a message today that humanity will fight to protect itself, no matter the odds. If there are more of them, we'll deal with them when the time comes." Laura nodded, though her eyes remained troubled. Ryan understood her fear. The unknown was always the hardest thing to face. But for now, they had done all they could. The alien station was gone, and with it, their immediate threat. Dr. Olivia Grant's voice crackled over the comms. "Captain, I've finished analyzing the data from the station. It confirms what I suspected. They were being controlled by something else. A higher intelligence, possibly based farther out in uncharted space." Ryan frowned. "Do we have any leads on where this intelligence might be?" "Not yet," Olivia replied. "But the energy signature we followed here is part of a larger network. If we can map it, we might be able to trace it back to their source." Ryan exchanged a glance with Melissa. The thought of venturing even deeper into uncharted space was daunting, but they couldn't ignore the possibility of another attack. Humanity had to stay one step ahead. "For now," Ryan said, his voice firm, "we head back to Earth. We'll report what we've learned and prepare for the future. But we're not done exploring. Not by a long shot." The crew nodded, their faces lighting up with a mix of relief and determination. They had survived the impossible, and in doing so, they had proven humanity's strength. But Ryan knew the galaxy was vast, filled with mysteries and dangers they had yet to uncover. As the fleet set course for home, Ryan stood by the viewport, gazing out at the stars. The journey ahead would be long and uncertain, but he felt a glimmer of hope. Humanity had faced its darkest hour and emerged stronger. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. "Good work, everyone," Ryan said softly, addressing the crew. "You've made me proud. Now let's get home." The engines roared to life, propelling the fleet toward Earth. Behind them, the wreckage of the alien station floated silently, a reminder of what they had overcome, and a warning of what might still come. The human fleet arrived back at Earth weeks later, greeted by cheers and celebrations that echoed across the planet. News of their victory had spread quickly, and billions of people watched as the battered but triumphant ships descended into orbit. Captain Ryan Carter stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue-green orb of Earth grow larger in the viewport. It was a sight he never thought he'd see again. "Captain," Lieutenant Melissa Lane said, breaking the silence, "the Council wants to speak with you as soon as we dock. They're calling it a debriefing, but I think they just want to hear your side of the story." Ryan nodded. He knew this moment would come. The leaders of humanity's government would want answers about the aliens, about the battle, and about what lay ahead. But for now, all he wanted was a moment to breathe. As the fleet landed, crowds gathered at spaceports around the globe, waving flags and holding signs that read "Heroes of Humanity." Ensign Laura Fisher stepped off her ship for the first time in months, her legs shaky, but her spirit lifted by the overwhelming support. People cheered her name, though she felt unworthy of their praise. She had only done her duty, like everyone else. Dr. Olivia Grant was met with a mix of curiosity and gratitude. Once in exile, she was now hailed as a savior for her role in defeating the alien threat. Reporters swarmed her, asking questions about the hive mind and the mysterious higher intelligence behind the aliens. Olivia answered patiently, but her mind was already focused on the next step. Later that evening, Ryan stood before the council in a grand hall filled with officials, scientists, and military leaders. The room buzzed with anticipation as he recounted the events of the battle, the EMP strategy, the destruction of the alien station, and the evidence pointing to a greater threat beyond the stars. "We've won a battle," Ryan said, his voice steady but serious. "But not the war. The aliens we faced were tools, controlled by something far more advanced. If we don't find them and stop them, they'll come for us again." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. One of them, an older man with silver hair, leaned forward. "Captain Carter, are you saying there's another enemy out there? One even stronger than the fleet we just defeated?" Ryan nodded. "Yes, and if we wait for them to come to us, we might not survive the encounter. We need to take the fight to them, to explore the region where the energy signature leads and uncover their source." The room fell silent as the weight of his words sank in. Finally, the silver-haired man spoke again. "Then you have our full support. Humanity owes you everything, Captain. Use whatever resources you need to prepare for this mission." Ryan felt a surge of relief and responsibility. He had been given a second chance, not just to protect Earth, but to ensure its survival in a dangerous galaxy. As he left the hall, he found Melissa waiting for him outside. "What's next, sir?" she asked, her tone light but curious. Ryan smiled faintly. "We regroup, repair the fleet, train new recruits, and then we go back out there. There's still so much we don't know about the universe and about ourselves." Over the following weeks, the fleet was rebuilt and refitted. Engineers worked around the clock to repair damaged ships, while pilots and crew members trained tirelessly for future missions. Laura took on a leadership role, mentoring younger officers who looked up to her courage during the battle. Daniel spent hours tinkering with engines, determined to make the fleet faster and stronger than ever before. Dr. Olivia Grant became a key figure in planning the next expedition. Her knowledge of alien technology proved invaluable, and she worked closely with scientists to develop new weapons and defenses. Together, they mapped out the energy network, tracing its path deeper into uncharted space. Finally, the day came for the fleet to set out once more. Ryan stood on the bridge, gazing at the stars as the engines roared to life. Behind him, his crew moved with purpose, ready to face whatever lay ahead. "Course plotted, Captain," Laura said from her station. "Ready to jump on your mark." Ryan took a deep breath. "Let's move out." As the fleet disappeared into the void, Earth watched with hope and determination. Humanity had proven its strength, but the journey was far from over. The galaxy held countless mysteries and dangers yet to be uncovered. But one thing was certain: no matter what challenges awaited them, humanity would face them together. And somewhere among the stars, the unknown waited.